So, welcome back to my 8th video. This video is not going to be a gameplay heavy video, it's going to be a, well, sit around and talk video, and because I want to have a rant about how the current top tier feels like and how it works with some of the tanks and so on. So, let's start out with the MBT-70 and the Camp-Panzer-70. I'm not going to show the Camp-Panzer-70 because it's basically a reskinned MBT-70. So there's no point in it from my perspective. Like, it's, some people say it's the best tank in the game, and well, right now, how it is, it's a Leopard with a 152mm gun, and that's about it. The armor is shit. Pretty much anything can kill this thing, especially through this, like, under here. Most rounds in this tier are just overmatching the armor by far and go straight through. And I guess you can protect yourself from normal heat rounds, which some tanks have in their arsenal in top tier, which in my opinion is just shit, and they should not have normal heat, because normal, like heat normal without the FS, like the fin stabilized, is just like a HE round with some armor piercing in it. There's like no shrapnel, there's no pen, it gets absorbed by anything. You just have like a hand in the way and it just absorbs 380mm of like plasma beam of copper. It's weird. But there's one thing that I noticed, because I play this quite a lot lately just to try out, because back in the day when I first got this thing, I got killed a few times by low tier tanks, like the T-34s and the KV-1s and so on. And I thought, like, that can't be a bug, right? Or maybe it could, but I wanted to actually see if it was. And I found out that it's not a bug. It's how the damage model of this thing works. So, as many of you might know, on the front here, on the cheeks, it's the strongest armor on the tank, because of this spaced armor. And the spaced armor is actually pretty good against AP-HE rounds and AP-CBC rounds. But AP-FSDS rounds go straight through, and ATGMs also go straight through. And it's pretty easy to kill it. You know, it's a fast tank, it's mobile, it has the suspension where you can move left and right, up and down and so on. But there's one thing that I noticed, and that's, firstly, the spaced armor ends like right here. In this, you can see how the armor is, like, this is pretty much optics here, so if you have something that goes through optics, you just APHA in here, kills everything. Also, it says like the kinetic energy is 320 and 280 for chemical, and the composition is 38mm armor, which I suppose is this outside 38mm, and then 127mm of air, which is this air pocket you can see in between, and then a 130mm solid rolled homogeneous armor plate. So you can't really see it here. Oh, maybe you can see it a little bit. You can see this edge down here. So in game, if you shoot somewhere around here, there's like an edge between two different armor plates. The front one you can't really penetrate unless you have the absolute top tier stuff. But back here, you can see that it's weaker right here because of the optic is cutting into the spaced armor. But for some reason, it's also weaker here, where there is spaced armor. There's actually thick spaced armor, like in the front. But this armor doesn't count of some reason, even if it says that it counts. So after this, like, in between this grip things, right here, to here, it's like if you have 80 to 100mm pen, you will go straight through. And I did this in some tests with a friend with the KV1, T34, Jumbo, She2. Every time just killed it. Also a Tier 1 British, I think it was, with an AP shell, just shot straight through, killed the tank. And in my opinion, that shouldn't work. Maybe on this weak here, but not back here. Also, this optic is, like, as you saw, it's not really modeled, so if you have something that can go through, that works. And on the sides here, it's actually double spaced armor in this thing, on this round thing. But right here, on this edge, there's like no armor at all, so you can wedge a shot in between this corner and it will go pass straight through. And as you see in the armor model, this is like the thickest part of the actual armor, so I don't get why that is a thing. There's probably something to do with the modeling of the tank. And as you see, it's basically a leopard with good chic armor, and that's about it. Oh yeah, you can hit up here with most rounds and it will also go straight through, because it's edge. So if you just know where to shoot, they are actually pretty... Okay, they are not easy, but they are doable to kill. And you know, I don't know, I've just been killed by so many things that aren't even close to top tier in this thing, and it's just so ridiculous. So, as you might know from my older videos, I'm trying to get the M60 A1 Rise P, and as you see, I'm still far away, but you know, it's getting there. This thing is actually pretty good, at least against me and my playstyle, because I like to use the Hesh rounds nowadays after after the Hesh update, which made the Hesh, like, in my opinion, if you can hit a weak spot, like, that's it. You kill the tank. I had a great game that I might show. I don't know. I don't know if it's even saved on the replay. Anyways, I had a great game with my M60. Oh no, it was the Vickers MBT. That's it. I confuse them sometimes. So the Vickers MBT, and I was playing on Mostock, I think it was, and I was like crust peeking at one of the points, as you do. And I shot 3 rounds, each round killed. And the last thing I killed was a T95 Doom Turtle, and I hit a Cupola on over 900 meters, and it's just dead. And it was just glorious, and I felt so dirty for hitting that shot. Like, I have played the T95. I know how horrible it is to get into the battle and die straight away. So I wrote sorry in the chat. Anyways, if you were that person that I killed, I'm sorry that I killed your Doom Turtle so easily. Anyways, so the M60 Rise with the ERA armor, or explosive reactor armor. It protects you from anything chemical, so ATDMs, heat rounds, heat FS rounds, and Hesh. And I have tried to go against, like, play my own M60, the 7.7, in top tier, which it's not easy. That's what I can say. But when you shoot a Hesh round and it just hits one of these plates and it just does nothing, it's just I think you can actually do quite good with the M60, but it's not a tanky thing. You have to play it like a light tank. At least in 9.0, which is top tier. So yeah, so I'm gonna cut over to the T64 next. So here we are at the T64. I'm going to do a quicker review of this thing. And as you might know, the MBTs recently got a reload nerf from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. So this thing actually reloads faster than an MBT right now. And it's actually pretty good. Like, you lose mobility because the T64 isn't as mobile as the MBT tanks. But you gain armor, and this armor is not bad. Like, this upper front plate armor is as good kinetic energy as the Sheik armor on the MBTs. And also the chemical armor or energy protection, like that's above many ATGMs, like okay, not many, but like the American ones, which pen 421, I believe it is. I haven't played with ATGMs much lately. It's not that useful in top tier. And as I said in one of my videos, you can hit the weaknesses in this area, and you might kill it with an ATGM or a Hesh or something. But it's a hard shot, and usually this thing hides on extreme range because of its high velocity. What is it? 1700 meters per second? 1800 meters per second APFSDS rounds, which is just ridiculous. And it's probably the best round, or one of the best rounds in the game. And it's weak to the MBT APFSDS round. Most MBT rounds just go through here, but these sheiks on this thing are just ridiculous. And I don't know what's up with this. I think there's weaker armor here. Before there weren't any armor here on the side of the gun. I guess they added 330 to 150 millimeters here. Because why not give the strongest tank in the game more armor? Anyways. And this chemical and like this armor overall is just good. So like you have this shakes, or not shakes, this metal panels which absorb heat round and hash rounds and might take several rounds to remove. And it protects the sides. You have the composite armor. You have this weakness that I took up in the T64 video, which isn't a weakness, but you would believe it is. You can see this cupola. It's actually not rendered in the damage model, so if you try to hit it, you will just pass through it or hit this extreme angle of 71 to 79, which is just like you can't damage this thing. Any round just bounces off. Maybe in Rocket and Jugfence are too hot, might be able to, but that thing you can just hit anywhere really, so I don't know why you would aim for this thing. I think they should remake the damage model and just add the cupola. It can't be that hard, and as you see, it's actually quite a lot of it that isn't part of the damage model. You would think like they have even rendered this thing, but they haven't rendered the cupola, so you know. But overall, it's probably one of the better top tiers in the game. I wonder if this thing is. Yeah, even this thing is rendered. 100mm wood, and you know how the game works. This is 100mm of any gun you have, so good luck with all this extra protection. You can hash them back here, which kills most of the time. But usually if you're behind the T64s, you have done good anyways, and it's actually really hard to play top tier and come up behind one of these things. So yeah, over to the Chieftain Mark 10. So here we are with the Chieftain Mark 10. I haven't seen this tank as much as the other ones, probably because the British top tier aren't as good as the other ones, because, well, British top tier, British NA tier uses straight up kinetic rounds, and yes, this thing has extremely good armor on his turret with his steel blue armor, which, as you see, goes up to 500 millimeters of chemical and 450 on kinetic. And as you see, it has cost among his armor 150 to 80, with rubber 60 millimeters, and then followed up with 250 to 150 millimeters of more steel behind that, or rolled amongst armor. And as you see, it's really thick armor, and if this thing is hull down, it's just to give up. Unless you have a hot missile or anything that bends over 500, which is most ATGMs. In gameplay I've seen, it's pretty fast and mobile. The only problem it is that if you hit anywhere that isn't this upper front, you will kill it. Like this armor right here, just shoot through this or this, and you know, ammo all the way through. You can't hit this part and not hit ammo. That's not a thing. And from the sides you see there's loads of ammo. And if the player removes ammo and plays with smaller amounts, I guess it's probably this piles here that might stay, or this pile under them. I don't know. I would kinda like this thing because, you know, it's a Chieftain Mark 10. It's like, it has this amazing round. And it's probably really fun to use against anything. But I wouldn't rely on your armor with this thing. Unless you can like pick a hill or something and shoot over it. But as soon as you show anything under your turret, you're dead. And over to the Type 74, which is technically the Japanese top tier. So here we are with the Type 74. This is technically, as I said, the highest tier Japanese tank that you can unlock. And it versus MBT-70s, T-64s, Chieftain Mark 10s, and so on. And, well, they buffed it quite recently and gave it an APFSD S round, which is meh. I think it's the same power as the M60 Rise, or M60A1 Rise P is the technical term. And my friend that has this thing says it's doable and it's playable, but you are in a clear disadvantage when you play this thing. And it's sad when you have grinded up to tier 6 to unlock a thing that firstly doesn't have any like extra armor. Like the armor you see is the armor you get. And 100 millimeters in 9.0 or 8.7 as it says is not recommendable. And sides 20 millimeters. So if an MBT runs up on your side, he will just spray you down with his 20 millimeter autocannon. And usually when you play realistic battle in this thing, you will play with the Germans, so you will have Kampfpanzers with you, and you will have the Type 74. And you're probably going to verse something like the American MBT and M60s, or the T-64, or the Chieftains, and if you look into the penetration of 300 plus on all ammo types of all those tanks, you know, this won't protect you from anything. Especially not this viewing port right here. And the ammo is pretty exposed, and if you're seen in this thing, you're dead. So, yeah. And finally, over to the AMX 13 Hot, which is the French top tier. So, here we are with the probably most ridiculous tank in the entire game, because this is a 6.0 tank. like for real, this is a 6.0 tank. The only reason this thing is 9.0 is because they put some hot missiles. And these missiles aren't good in close quarter because they shoot up and then down, and then you control them by, what is it, hand aiming? Semi-automatic. Oh well. So I guess you can shoot it on far range. But after that you have 6 shots, unless you go to a point, and then you can reload slowly and probably die, because you know 6.0 armor of a great 20 millimeters right here. Oh, this is going to stop anything. And the 40 millimeters, oh yeah, the MBTs are going to shoot you like, I don't know. And the 40 millimeter, like, this in general is just a 6.0 tank in 9.0, and I don't get why. Like, it has the 80 GMs, yes. But 9.0, for real? Like, as soon as you run out or anything hits this thing, you're dead. You're probably going to get hull braked if anyone touches you, so, you know. Filled with ammo has a 6.0 gun, as I can actually show this in here. This is the tank you get. Here it lies in the BR. I can actually go through this thing because I think this thing is pretty ridiculous. It's 8.7 like the Type 74, and it has actually pretty good angled armor. It's not thick at all, and APFS DS rounds will murder you, literally. And doesn't have any extra armor under it. And yeah, so when you first unlock this thing, which I'm probably never going to do, you start with, as the Americans, 8.3 plus 152 millimeters. You will start with heat. It's a good heat, yes. It's a heat FS. No, it's not. So it's going to be a bad heat. It's going to be so bad that if you hit ammo, it has like a 50% chance to detonate the tank. And if it doesn't detonate, a top tier tank will just turn around straight away and kill you. It gets a high explosive, no one cares about that. It was actually really good for that size gun. I didn't know that. Smoke, kinda good. And it actually gets the worst APFSDS round in the game, I think. It should be. Oh no, the worst one is the T95E1 round, which I actually like. It has only 300 millimeters pen, and this is 348. But this thing versus MBTs and T64s and chieftains, so you know, this ammo isn't really good for that. And because you don't have any like spaced armor, composite, or anything, you have to rely on something maybe bouncing on the 76mm plate. And if it bounces, it just goes straight up into your turret. And, well, gun, primary gun, optics, loader and or gunner and commander is just dead. And, well, French top tiers I wouldn't recommend. I don't see any point in getting them. So now I'm going to have, now I went through all the, here you see my wonderful B1 teir, because I wanted to try out the French. And I'm glad that I skipped the reserve tanks, because I wouldn't survive. Anyways, I'm now going to go over to ranting about 8.3 plus battles, which I have played quite a lot this past week. So, if you're still here at the end of the video, I would like to for you to comment down below opinions and say what you think about what I have said about in this video. I would greatly appreciate it, and leave a like if you like it, and do not if you don't like it. So, 8.3 plus battles. Like, it's impossible to play 8.3 battles anymore. I tried out some 8.0s, which I have on this preset here, which this thing, it's not the greatest 8.0 tank, and you get down tiered to 7.7 a lot, which is preferable. But as you see, I've done this 9.0 setup because 8.3 to 8.7, it's no idea. Like, you grind through all these tanks from the very start, and I grinded before they reduced the RP and flying cost of all these things up to about here. I think I got the M46 after that patch, and the M60, and the M48A1. So I got 3 tanks since that patch, which saved me a lot of time, but all of this I've unlocked by this slow old system. So you grind through all of these things and you be unlocking the, for example, the M60, and you feel like this is going great. And then you unlock, for example, M60 A1 AOS. And then you verse MBTs, 70s, and T64s. And a stock round from this, 321 millimeters. You might be able to pen an MBT or a Campanzer, or the French, or what are they called? Japanese tanks. Yeah, but as soon as you see a T64, you can do anything. If you unlock the Hesh round, you might be able to do the Hesh weakness on the T64. And the heat round, yeah, as you see, this thing isn't really equipped for playing against 8.3. And in my opinion, all the MBTs, 70s, the T64 and the Mark 10 should be in their own block of tanks, like their own tier. Because 8.3 and 8.7 tanks, like, I guess, like the ATGMs I can understand, like the Shernan and the Racket and Jagpanzers and the IT ones, because people got so bored at getting killed in 7.7. And I got bored of getting killed. But, for example, Racket and Jagpanzer 2, you get 8.3, so in bad cases you can get down tiered to 7.3, which is somewhere here. And you play against leopards and stuff in arcade, and in the American you can play against, well, the M103 and the M60. So that's it. But they recently nerfed the American ATGM tanks, like the Sherman. It has unlimited ammo that you can use. I think it's 10 missiles, and then the rest is standard ammo. So you can have 20 heat rounds, which, as I said before, these heat rounds are not good. They will never be good, and any YouTubers slash streamers that have asked to play this thing have just straight out ignored the request and been like, oh no, let's play with ATGMs. But no, you might be able to use the heat rounds to kill MBTs if you can hit them on the MBT weak spot, which I showed in my very first video, I think it was. And most of these tanks are just not designed to play against something that runs in 72 kilometers per hour, or let's go to realistic. So if you play realistic, it goes 64 kilometers per hour, and then you get teamed up with an M60A2, for example, which max out at 48, it says. I think I never reached 48 on a normal map with this thing. Maybe in one of the modded ones in custom battle. And this thing has basically the same ammo types as the Sherman, the shit heat round, the meh HE round, and the OK ATGMs, which is limited on this tank also to 10, and you have 46 rounds. So I don't know. I can't recommend those tanks anymore. Like, you just play against T64s all the time. There's nothing you can do. you can play with your Conquerors or your... Okay, the Conqueror is 7.3, but your Chieftain marked 3 and 5, which has no Steelbear armor. You're just dead. You play with your Swingfire or your Striker. I guess the Striker can actually do some damage, but the Swingfire, I doubt it. And like the Germans have their Tigers, and like there's nothing fair about having a Tiger 205mm gun thing getting up-tiered, and then an MBT T64 getting down-tiered, and then you have something that can shoot through the Tiger without any problem wherever it hits, and the Tiger can't do anything to the T64. This is very extreme cases, but for example, I played my T32 on my 7.0 setup because I like to play on different BRs on different times. And I played with a friend that only had 7.0. So we played on 7.0 in a realistic battle, and we had boosters on. I think there was like a 200 or 300% booster on, which have a tendency to up-tier you. And we got up-tiered to 8.0. And there was a T64 that got down-tiered to 8.0, which meant that we were 7.0 tanks versus a T64. Either he cheated, which, oh no, no one is cheating in War Thunder, or the system is just broken. And as you see, our best round couldn't scratch the surface of the C64. So that's just my opinion on the top tier and why it's do not in any case play about 8.0. That's not possible. 7.7 is the glory, like BR to play. You're probably going to have the most fun unless you own the T64. Some people might like the MBT-70. I don't like the rush to the cap zones and then camp from across the map, shooting rounds that go across the map in like less than a second. So yeah, that was all for my 8 video. Sorry about this video being long and all, but that's it. So have a great day.